Hello everyone, it's Michelle Lloyd here, founder of United Art Space. Welcome back. We are here this week for Your Art Matters, and I'm bringing guests in every day this week to inspire you, bring conversation around all different topics surrounding art. And today I am super excited because I'm joined with my friend Sharon Griffin and Wayne Chisnell, who are both artists based in the UK. A lot of you might know Sharon, some might not, so we'll do a little intro in a minute. But I've asked Sharon and Wayne to come in because they're working together on an amazing project. And they're both very established artists, have been for many, many years. So it's just really interesting to hear their journey recently and their collaboration. And I think you'll get a lot from this session. So get your notebooks ready. So first of all, Sharon, could you just tell us a little bit about yourself as an artist, your journey, and what kind of art you make?
Yeah, thanks for having us, by the way, Michelle.
Thank you.
You're very welcome.
We love the hub. So I'm a figurative sculptor. So I started my journey as an art and design lecturer for 17 years, and then 5 years ago, when I had my last daughter, my last child, I established myself in a little pottery studio, which we're in at the moment. And I make sculpture. I make figures in the face out of clay. That's about it, really. I sell my work all over the UK, and just really enjoy getting to basics with the clay and getting that hands-on. And I'm in the workshop every day. I just love it. It's a great life. Great life.
You've been an artist most of your life, basically, haven't you?
Yeah. But no, focusing for the past 5 years, focusing on this is what I do.
Yeah, as an artist, professionally and full time in the last 5 years. Hi, Wayne. Tell us a little bit about your journey, and I know you've got a very colourful background in the arts, haven't you?
Yeah, I like Sharon. I've been an artist pretty much all my life. I'm more known now probably for my more in the fine art kind of area, sculpture, but I also do painting and drawing and printmaking if I get the chance. I came from more of an illustration background originally. I was a technical illustrator in the late 80s, and also did magazine illustration. I still do a bit of illustration every now, kind of a bit of a magpie. I tend to flip between things, keeps me fresh. But I I'm from, like Sharon, I'm from Wellington in Shropshire, but I moved to London, and I was away from Shropshire 20 years and exhibiting a lot in London and other places, and moved back about 4 years ago, and just for studio space up here is cheaper, and so that's me.
Wonderful. And so you both met each other a few years ago and have similar interests in art. And then tell us about how this collaboration came about. So first of all, Sharon and Wayne are working on a collaborative project. And I use this word collaboration a lot. And I know a lot of people might be sitting here now thinking, I have no idea what collaboration means, how you collaborate as artists or how you collaborate with others. So this is why I brought Sharon and Wayne in, because this is great, example of how two artists can come together to create an art project. So tell us a little bit about the project and the collaboration that you're working on right now and how it came about.
It was about, when was it? May, a few months ago, Sharon approached me about working on a collaboration. She had sort of set idea what it could be, sort of. It
was. I think obviously we're in strange times globally, and as makers, I've known Wayne for a couple of years now as an artist, so I know his background, I know his work, and I know his kind of style, his use of materials, and I also understand that that Wayne also has a really amazing passion for the woodlands, which is a connection that I have as well. So in my work, I like to go up the woods. We live in the same area. We go foraging for certain things, and we're also makers. So So it's kind of made sense to me to reach out to you to maybe think about a project that we could do which explores our feelings of these strange times during COVID lockdown 2020.
Yeah.
I think enough we share enough common interests to sort of for our work to gel, but also we work in very different materials a lot of time, and we have just different skill sets, and so it is the sort of the give and take, or the we sort of like I said, it's almost like an exquisite corpse where Sharon started off with it's going to evolve, but at the moment initially Sharon would give me a clay figure cast from a mold of one of her busts that she made, and so she'd give that to me. I'd manipulate it in some way, give it back, and she'd do something to it, apply glazes, made amazing glazes, I think all your own recipe, but and then fire it, bring it back to me, and I do something. But each handover stage, we're a bit apprehensive, like what they're going to do with it, and it's
about releasing the control over the person.
It is letting go, definitely, and it's something that's kind of a mixture of both our kind of passions and style, but it is something that's separate entirely as well. So it's
perhaps to sort of sum it up, if we are artists in our own studios, we're quite happy being isolated. We're kind of used to it, aren't we, as artists, to just get our heads down. We're makers, we're getting the zone, and we're quite privileged. And I think for me, a lot of people, it was a realization that I was privileged because I had this outlet, this creative outlet, but also that choice of sharing it with other people was taken away. So the control of the work that I steered, I wanted it to be released, so that it didn't have so much control over it. Like a paradigm of what we're in at the moment. So it's about making the work, connecting with other people, finding out how their experience of making or their experience of being in lockdown was like. And it was also using the material, because we're both makers. It's all about touch, and everything is on a screen at the moment. And I'm not used to it. I'm not used to being on a screen. I mean, I am, but I'm used to having something that is I can touch, that I can feel, and I can hold in a physical way. So that release of the physical sense. So I make something, like Wayne said, I make something. Then I release it to Wayne. He does something else with it, with timber, constraints, locking it in, attachments, and then gives it back to me. And then I go, this is with this, so I respond to it. So it's definitely a process-led kind of journey that is exploratory. It's unknown charted territory for both of us. And it's quite playful. It's quite interesting, because some of it I don't like. So it's about the work. It's not about person anymore.
But the thing with the handover process, make a piece, and in your head you've got an idea where it can go, but obviously when it comes back to you, it's gone completely so you have to each time you have to reset. Okay, step back. My next piece, I'm going to have to move it in, and it's gone sideways, so it's move it this way this time. So it's a great learning curve, and it's also it throws you a curveball, and you're like, okay, what will I do with it now? And it takes you to areas that you wouldn't have gone on your own. So it's really it's good.
And the project, the collaborative project, is a separate entity, but also runs alongside our own work. So it doesn't get in the way. It's as well as, isn't it? Yeah. So it sort of feeds into our own work, but our own work feeds into that as well. So that project is going to hopefully be explored, and we want it to be seen in as many places as possible. And
so it's interesting. So many gold nuggets out of this conversation already, because quite often I'm just speaking to the artists watching now, and who I work with. There's this fear around approaching other artists sometimes, in terms of how to collaborate. And I think when you start to see other people doing similar things to you, or they share the same passions as you, some people are afraid of that and see it as competition. And actually, you know, when you get to know other artists who've got the same beliefs, same passions, same interests as you, there's room for everyone. And you'll find that we're all unique. We all do things in our own unique way. So I think this is just a great message to just remind yourselves of that in this journey, when you start to carve out your own place in the art world and you attract people who have same interests as you and other artists, there's always room to do something like this. And I'm so inspired by you both to just see this amazing energy now and this kind of completely unique art coming out of you both because of this collaboration. It would not exist without you both. And I find that really intriguing. And also, like you've just said, it's pushing you both as artists, because working independently on your own thoughts through the way you see the world, you know, you've got a formula, haven't you, that you work with, and this is really pushing you out of that comfort zone and out of the norm and pushing you to see things differently. But also this link to what we're going through right now, it's helping you process this whole crazy world that we're living in. And then I think a byproduct of that is everyone else who interacts with your work gets to understand that as well, which is what I like.
And you together as well, sort of, you know, you double your sort of the people who know your work, and also I think you push each other on to, you know, let's apply for this, let's do that. And
I've learned. I mean, we are now literally a few months into our project, and I've learned so much from Wayne's approach to his artwork.
And the same. I mean,
it's completely different approach to how I would see the art world, and I'm learning so much from it.
And I've gained as well. We have, you know, a very different approach. I'm far more laid back and contemplative, but Sharon is
like, of the universe.
Sharon is very focused and driven and you know, prolific. I'm like, I'm gonna have to up my game and actually produce more work now.
And I'm gonna have to slow down. It's really good because I have one of those brains that it is full and I am full steam ahead all the time. So when I have an idea in my head, I have to go for it, and I'm like, come on, Wayne, we've got to do this. You know, let's go, let's do it.
And I'm like, actually, maybe we should slow down on this one because show ourselves up with this.
So you just put the brakes on a bit, which allows me to have that breathing space.
Yeah.
And it allows me to just step back and just consider what it is that we would like to do for this project. And then I learn that method that I wouldn't have done before. Yeah. It's really, really good. I definitely recommend doing a collaboration with another artist.
No, I'm just laughing quietly here because of Sharon finding you so laid back. So in this tier that's happening, I find Sharon really laid back. So I'm just thinking about Wayne and I are like so extreme. Because in my world, you're laid back, Sharon. And I just, you know, it's interesting, isn't it? That
I'm going to be comatose in comparison to Michelle.
We're going to go in reverse at some point. We need just another person just to do this whole
But Michelle, what you're saying about approaching other artists that work in similar veins, it reminded me of there's an artist called I think it's Leslie Hilling or Hillinger, can't remember now, but she works very similar materials and structures to me. And a few years ago, she approached me for coming for a studio visit to my studio, and I didn't really know her work at the time, so I had a quick look at it before. I thought, oh yeah, we do a lot of similar things. And she brought another woman with Rachel, whose name I can't remember. And we got chatting. I said to her, oh, Rachel, are you also an artist? She said, no, I work for a gallery, blah, blah. And I said, oh, right. She said, yeah, we approached you about having a solo show. I was like, did I reply? And she was like, no. I was like, oh. But then I did get a solo show out of them. Then me and Leslie also had a show together. And it's quite interesting because people see, you know, I've had people who've seen Leslie's work at fairs and they said, oh, have you got new work? I was like, no, that's Leslie. And the thing is, she saw my work and I was using a lot of magnified lenses and stuff at the time. She said, oh, that's really good. So now she's started using the lenses, so her work's like mine. And I'm not sure, but I've actually diverged. So I have like a broader spectrum now. So I've moved away from some of that because I don't want to. But I should go back. I should reclaim my work.
It's like a hybrid.
Yeah.
What I find interesting from this, so what I want to to talk about now is this collaboration has not only helped you as artists and helping you kind of process this crazy world that we're living in and pushing your materials and your boundaries and things like that. It's also, I think, amounting to you both raising your profile. And this is where I want to talk about the non-commercial art aspect. So I had a great question come in this week saying, you know, why do we have to keep focusing on making money from art? Why can't it be about the non-commercial side? And I said, well, this is a great conversation to have with Wayne and Sharon today, because this project, you know, I know, Sharon, that you've got exhibitions and you're making money from your artworks.
I'm definitely a commercial artist.
But this side is, you know, it was born from a non-commercial place, in that there was never it was never the intention to sell this piece, this finished piece. It was about the collaboration. It was about the message and the impact that this work can have on other people. And I think that that's sometimes hard for people to grasp, especially when we're under pressure to make money. And I just want to talk about the importance of this as an artist, because what this does, this release, and I'm not saying that you won't make money from this, because we're going to talk about that in a minute, about the funding and how this whole thing comes into being. I think it's a fascinating process to share with everyone. But I just want to talk about this importance to just free yourself of that monetary value that this is going to have, and actually focusing on the impact and the process has actually been really important in this project. Would you agree?
Absolutely. Yeah. This project definitely wasn't about making money. It was about a need to say something about something that was happening in a specific time that affected everybody globally.
Yeah.
As an artist, I personally thought that I have to do something about this. And I didn't know how to do it by myself. And so then I reached out to Wayne and suggested that we do something about this together. So it definitely wasn't about making money from it. And it definitely wasn't about being commercial. It was about something really deep and personal and exciting and traumatic, and about the whole experience of being in lockdown during 2020, the first one. And how do we exist? How do we perceive our lives to be? What do we take from it? What are our experiences? And what I think we'd like to do is we'd now like to invite other people. We're starting to invite other people to share their own experiences of it. We might or might not go into educational establishments such as schools, colleges, things like that, in terms of a Zoom meeting, not physically.
Yeah.
How does it affect our culture? How does it affect our people, our communities? How do we communicate now? How does it feel to be after we've been in lockdown? So all of that in a few sentences, it's about that, and it's about making, and it's about bringing it back to the person who's making it and having that collaboration. And we'd like to get that seen. We don't know where it's going to go. We do have one place that it's going to first, but we can't reveal that yet. It gets revealed next week. Very exciting news that it's going into a very, very well established arts event in London in February next year, if it goes ahead. So it's been accepted for that. The project has, and we'd like it to be seen in as many places as possible, not just in London, in our town, in shop windows. It needs to be accessible for everybody, because everybody is going through this whole process, that just as we are, regardless of age, gender, status.
I love it, because, as you know, I teach the 7 part framework, and that's how I teach artists to get their art out into the world. And the framework follows. Why is first, and this is you're the perfect example of this framework that I created. That this was born from the need to make it the why this matters to us, and then why does this matter to other people? And that's the stage you're going into now. Is how this impacts other people, and this is why art is so powerful. Because it is helping us all process, and when we see your art and your process as well of how you make the work, it's helping us process our own environment. You know, just hearing this now.
We'd like that.
And I'm definitely from a non-commercial background. I've always made art for myself. Like if you start to like jump on bandwagons or just try and produce art that is expected of you, which I think before I moved into sculpture, I was more illustrative, and I think I was just kind of, part of me was just ticking boxes like, oh, this is what's expected of me, this is a certain standard. And then when I moved into sculpture, I suddenly found my own voice, and everything I made was for myself. And I think if you make something for yourself and you believe in it, then others are going to, or if they don't, at least you've got something that you believe in. And I've always, since I left university, 99, I was living in London for like 17 years, and I was just exhibiting around there and a few abroad and whatever. And it was just, I was more interested in building up a body of work that I was very happy with, and I still am more interested in exhibiting or getting to public, permanent collections rather than just producing work to sell, as a make a living or as a commodity.
Yeah, and I think, like you say, when you're doing it from that place of it being personal and you, even if it doesn't go to be sold, it's amounting to something. You're developing as an artist, as a person. It's your visual language that you're developing, isn't it? It's just so important to really tap into that, I think. And so I just wanted to talk about these steps that you've taken, because it's easy for us to see the bigger picture now that you're going to be exhibited in this big major place that will be revealed next week. And it's an amazing establishment in the UK.
This is the start of my career next week. So this is me. So I've just kind of jumped in there, but it's like commercial and non-commercial. So I am at the moment a commercial artist that I sell my work regularly in galleries. This is how I make my living. Wayne doesn't. But we both have maybe the same ethos that we have to make it heartfelt. So it's got to be real for us. It's got to be our voice. It's got to be our why. Our why is absolutely the most important thing. And then for me, it's about how do I sell it to make some money so I can pay my mortgage.
Yeah,
that's what I do. This project isn't about that. And I'm learning that there are many other ways to grow and to earn from. And we were talking behind the scenes before we came on about going into residencies.
Yeah.
One of your things is going into,
That's what, I'd love to, I've got friends who do a lot of residencies. I think once you've got one or two, it's a lot easier once you've got under your belt to get into others. And I've got a friend, Jana Lang, who's a German artist, very successful, and a lot of times she just seems to, when I knew her she had a studio near me in London, and she just lived in the studio part-time, and then the rest of the time she just spent going around the world living in different residences. So I'd love, that's my goal. I've not done one yet, but what I'd aim for.
Yeah, there's so many opportunities, aren't there? But what I love about you guys is that you've followed the 7 keys without knowing it. But it's following that path of this work has been born, and then you're at this stage now, which is very exciting. And I just want to reiterate this point for everyone, that sometimes when you're in that stage of making from, like Wayne has been saying, from a place that's so personal, I see so many artists getting in their own way and stopping that, because they start to fill their heads with fear, like, who would be interested in this? Who's going to buy it? How could I ever make money from this? And if Sharon and Wayne had been thinking that at this stage, this project wouldn't have been born, because they'd be thinking, well, who's going to buy this? Who's going to buy something where I've amended it and I don't like it? And so this is what I love about your story, guys, is that, you know, this is born from a passion and a why, but this is the power of when you're passionate about something, you'll find a way to succeed. From the stage you're in now, which is where it's growing, which I'm loving, is you're really starting to get in front of people and you're saying, this is what we stand for. This is why we made it. It's impacting other people. And now you're starting to get represented, and I can see it being a traveling exhibition. And it's getting to the point now where you're starting to also think of funding. And so it was like the money part has come after. And Wayne and Sharon are going to be having a fund link so people can contribute towards this project, which is amazing. That'll be coming out next week. So sometimes you're at that stage of you can't see down the path, but this is where it is now. It's got legs and it's going to go all over the world.
With octopuses have, they don't have pimples.
But also, interestingly, you know, you're going to be doing the fun, you know, you've come up with this idea now to create artwork alongside this that you can sell to contribute towards the project. So back when you started, when all these people are making art going, well, how could I make money from this? You don't know until you get out there and just start doing it. And then ideas flow, opportunities come, and you're going to be represented by this amazing organization where you can show it. So it's starting to grow, isn't it, into something big, which is amazing.
Be a beast.
And you know, the really exciting thing about it is, for me, I've always got that. I'm always in control. I always know what's going to happen next. I've got to put things in a box before I can move on to the next one. Else all the doors open in my mind, too many. So the most interesting thing, or one of the most interesting things about this project for me, is that I get to release something and I don't have to control it. I like the journey that it's going on. I don't know where it's going to go. I don't know what actually we're going to make or exhibit for the show that we've been accepted into in February. I don't actually know what it's going to look like yet, but I'm really happy that it's a process.
Yeah,
and I love that.
Learning to let go.
Yeah,
that's really important. And
and
it takes you to places that you wouldn't. Even if the first steps you're not, the next steps from letting go you're not happy with, it moves on to others, and then a whole vista of opportunities open up. So it's worth doing.
It's really a process-led project.
Yeah, and something that came from, just going, hey Wayne, do you want to collaborate on this with me? To now, I'm dying to say what's going to happen next week, but I can't because it's tough. And I feel like I'm having to tape my mouth up here. But there's something significant that's happened for Wayne and Sharon in terms of this project and where it will be exhibited, which is, it's like an amazing platform for artists. This is going to go on their CV. And I know, Wayne, you've already got a colourful CV of places that you've exhibited, and Sharon, you have, but this is kind of really significant for you, isn't it? It's like the next step up in terms of your art career and the representation that you'd have. And that's come from this amazing collaboration and not thinking too much about how you're going to get it out into the world. It's just evolved into this. And so I just think you're both an amazing inspiration to just go for it, just to go for, what you're feeling in a project. So do you have any tips for anyone watching in terms of this idea of letting go? I'm asking because I've got a lot of people who feel the fear so much around who's going to like their art, who's going to buy it, where is this going? And I think for you two, letting go of that process, and Wayne, you're probably a great one to ask on this because that's the kind of art you've always made, isn't it? It's really born from you. No, go ahead.
Sorry. Yeah, I think there is that fear of, it can be of like, oh, who's going to like this? Well, you don't have to show anyone. If you're worried about how it'll be received, just go ahead and make it anyway. and make 10, 20 pieces, and then after a while you'll know whether it'll be received well. And maybe the first ones won't be great, but just keep. I used to do I had a little drawing exercise. I used to have loads of these big, just blank, shiny notepads, and I went through a process where I forced myself. I had to do 10 drawings every night before I could go to bed, and they'd be scribbles and stuff, and it was a really good exercise in sort of just releasing. And I think I've got to do 10. It doesn't matter how good they are, and then you don't look at them. I come back a few months later or weeks and go, well, that's actually really good. I can actually adapt that as an idea for a sculpture or painting, and a lot of the things that came out of that, when you're not thinking too much, you're just being instinctive, and I think just go with your intuition as well, and if things, I think you'll know if you in your gut if something's going wrong, I think just make it. You don't have to share it if you're a bit worried at first, and once you've got a body of work under your belt, you'll have a better idea of what will work. And
great advice, thank you. I also think in terms of you both getting out there, so you're both raising your profile with this project and you're getting in front of people, you put a pitch together to say this is why we've done this project, this is how we know it will impact people. So you've done a lot of work in that why and what purpose is. I do wonder, do you think as an independent artist, sometimes hard to go out there and put yourself in front of everyone going, look at what I'm doing, but as a collaboration, do you think it's easier now to just go out and say, this is what we're doing? Because it's kind of a joint, it's not like all eyes on you. I just wondered whether you find it easier to.
I guess it would be easier for a collaborative or collaboration to happen if you weren't confident about your work.
Yeah.
So, and you needed someone to, so luckily for me and for Wayne, I'm really good at talking a lot. We're very focused, very, very, very focused. And luckily for me, Wayne is very much hold on a minute, let's just reconsider this. What about this? How about we act? So together, we are more than the sum of our parts, if that makes sense. Yeah. So
I think we keep each other in check, but also I think as an entity, we have we can sort of draw on the better parts of each other's sort of skill set or whatever.
Yes. So we're picking at the best parts of our work, the best parts of our methods. The other day, just to give you an example, the other night, I suggested to Wayne, like, right, we're going over to your house. We're going to video a film. So we're going to make a film about asking for money for the Kickstarter project that we want to do. So we want to we need some money to help get the project off the ground and to pay for exhibition costs, and we're going to fund the major part of it, but we could just do with a bit of help. And it's hard to ask, actually. That's the first time I've ever had to ask for money. And we just couldn't do it. And I was like, no, we need to do this. And then I was like, let's just stop and let's just have a look. Let's look back on the video. And it did come across as being a little bit messy.
Yeah. So you're saying like, okay, this is, look, challenge enthusiasm, the drive, let's do it. I think in this case, we really need to work out our rewards for the Kickstarter campaign. What we'll be producing, we need to actually produce some physical examples. Yeah. We can't just go in and say, well, it's going to be this and that. We're too vague.
We're not.
And also, I'm contacting one of the people from Kickstarter about I thought, well, let's find out for the professionals, what are the pitfalls to avoid. It's always good to learn from your mistakes, but if you can learn from other people's mistakes first, then that would be, I think, I think we're going to sort of, maybe in this case, we shouldn't just wing it. We should,
So those watching might not know what the Kickstarter is. Can you just explain briefly what that is?
It's a crowdfunding campaign. Basically, a lot of people, if they want to fund a creative project, I've seen people who have got a creative project they want to get off the ground, so I've put money in to And there's different ways. There's most.
So it could be anything.
It could be
can't
anything.
it?
Say, I did one for it's a cartoonist who produced. It was basically a set of 12 prints in what looked like a 12-inch record cover, and he's quite well known. I've known him since the 80s, and so he was like, yeah, he was after I think something like £5,000 to produce a set, and in the end he got something like 15 or 20,000 pounds because everyone wanted. But so so you ask for money to produce something or to fund some project, but also I'm sure most people know there's normally a reward system. So if you were say put in I think for this print package, if you put I think it was $20 or $30 in, you got a copy of it once it was printed. If you went for $50, you got that plus a little booklet, a little book he produced. And then if you put in, I think it was $100, which I did, you got that. Plus, he did a little hand-drawn ink drawing. And I love his work anyway. Oh, I'm giving the money because I want that ink drawing. And but once you've got the money, and it's one that there's different schemes. There's somewhere
so the Kickstarter is basically a platform, like Wayne said. It's a platform that you can say, we've got this project. We need X amount of money to fund the project. Will you help us realize the project? And this is what you get if you get. So we're not at that stage where your friend.
You're getting there. Yeah,
we're getting there.
Yeah,
not quite.
I had a friend, an Australian graffiti artist. He's also a filmmaker. He used Kickstarter to fund a documentary made about Aboriginals in Australia.
Oh, that's Ben.
Yeah. So this will be our first one.
There's other platforms such as like crowdfunding or crowdfunding UK or there's platforms, but the project that we want to take our work to in February recommended Kickstarter as the crowdfunding campaign. So that's what we're working on at the moment. But there's that example of this is what we want to do, is the way that I'm learning to slow down, stop, get things right before you release it, which is what I'm really good at doing.
Yeah, and I also like, again, because of this collaboration, you're both bringing your own contacts. So I just think that, again, when you're thinking about how to get your art out there, when you collaborate with someone else and they go, well, I know this person, or what about this company, and you know someone else, that it just grows much faster, I feel, in terms of the reach, because you've got two heads and two contacts and two lots of experience. So I feel like that's where you're building momentum as well, isn't it, from both sets of...
I think if there's two of you doing, you keep up the momentum is sort of like, they each spur each other on. It's like, well, I've got to do this because the other one's doing it, and we've got to keep it going.
Yeah. Slow down.
Angie's just sent a message in, so I just want to read it out because I think it's a good one to talk about, because we've said about money not being the main driving force. So she said, I know making money isn't the most important thing, but my situation is such that I do need to do that. And I'm sorry, I'm being pedantic. I still like to make art that makes me happy, though. And I think, I guess what we're saying here is that we all need to make money. I mean, every one of us sitting here, we all need the money. And so I guess it's coming from that place of why it's born, though. And if you're making it to make money, it can cloud the direction and your passion and your art. Like Wayne, you were saying earlier, weren't you, that the earlier works when you were doing the illustration, maybe it wasn't really born from a place of that's what you wanted to do, and getting distracted possibly by, will this make me money? And I guess that's what we're saying here. It's trusting the process, isn't it?
Yeah.
And with other jobs, because I've always when I worked at the Victoria and Albert Museum for 15 years when I was in London, and I had studios, so I'd make work in the weekends and the evenings, and then I cut down I'd rather be more sort of time wealthy rather than money wealthy, although it'd be nice. But so I cut down to a four day week for the last few years, just so I could have more time to work on art. And also I just cut down cut out all non-essentials, so that I could live as cheaply as possible and dedicate more time to art. And that's the reason I moved back up to Shropshire, because I had a house up here, and it was so much cheaper to live, and I could sort of get by on very little money.
You've got a bigger workshop space as well.
Yeah, because I had when I was in London, I just used to, we'd have like warehouses and stuff to use, but over the years, all the developers moved in, bought them up, knocked them down, and it was just getting harder and harder to find affordable, large enough studio space. And so I just basically, I turned my house into a live workspace, and all the outbuildings into workshops and stuff. And you've got to do a workaround, find out what works for you, what you can cut out of your life financially you don't need. And, that's my way of working it.
I think when I think everybody has their own background, their own experiences of approaching their art, and sometimes when you're saying about being time, I am time poor. My time is so precious and so valuable, because I do have dependents, I have partner, I have family to look after, I have my own house to keep and run. So the way that we all have a different story where we come to our art, and like you said, everybody needs money. When I first started when I first started 5 years ago as a full-time artist, I also had a baby. I had a newborn baby. I had very, very little money. I had tax credits, which is a government handout. Just a few of them, just to keep me up and running. I worked at night times, so I would be family during the daytime, because I'd have a new baby and another child to look after, and then I would, as soon as everybody went to bed, I would be at work, and I would get like a day shift and sleep when the baby needed to sleep, but because that was what I needed to do, and that's what I wanted. So in those 5 years. Initially, it was very, very hard. It was very hard to make a living. I didn't make a living from it. It's only the past couple of years now that I am earning so much more than I was as a teacher, because of my choices that I wanted to do. So I wanted to go into commercial art galleries. I wanted to be a commercial artist. I wanted to hone my work so that it fitted into. I found the galleries that would fit my work, but definitely come from a heartfelt place. So the work has to be what I want to make. If I have a commission, so generally I make commissions for people. I work to their budget, but I don't allow them. I have very strong boundaries. I don't allow their voice to inhibit my own. So if someone says, Sharon, could you make me this, and this, and it has to look like that, I'm sorry, it would. I can. First of all, I can make a commission for you, and it will look kind of like this, or this, and there is no commitment to buy, because I know that if I make that commission and they don't like it, I'm not thinking about what they want me to make. I'm thinking about what I would like to make. They don't like it, sell it somewhere else.
Yeah.
So it's very strong boundaries for me.
Yeah.
But early stages, it was very, very hard. Now it's
it's tough at the beginning, and I think that's where it can get distracting for people if they are relying on their art being their income. It can get distracting, can't it, in terms of, well, what art should I make to make money? And if you do that, that's where it can go wrong.
Yeah, a part-time job. Just do whatever you need to do. Part-time job. Wayne works as a carer, so he cares for his family.
Yeah.
There's lots of different ways to make money if you don't want to, but if you do, there's other ways too. There's so many ways. I don't know.
So many options. Yeah. Ryan asked a question. I can put them on the screen. I keep forgetting. If a project is quite lengthy and has various hoops to jump through, is it hard to keep focus, or does the work drive you both enough?
So if the project is quite lengthy, so this one is quite lengthy, has a various hoops, is it hard to keep focus, or does the work drive you both enough? Yeah, absolutely the work for me. The work is definitely the process. It's great. Blooming love it. It's brilliant.
When you say groups, I mean, like there will be things like along the way we'll apply for,
like the Kickstarter campaign.
Yeah, so that's all the kind of there might these other
the non-sexy stuff.
Yeah, and it is that kind of like, and I'm dyslexic, so filling out application forms is a nightmare. It takes me a lot longer than most people, but I've had a blog which I've been writing for about 14 years, and that's really helped with my writing. My reading's still terrible. I misread things all the time, but yeah, it's the application if you're applying for a residency or an exhibition, and sometimes I have to spend a week just to get if it's. But then on my computer I've got like everything I've applied for, any art related text. I have like documents, so I can as the years go by I can go in and think I can take that, adapt it slightly, so it's getting easier and easier. But hoops.
I think because I feel like I'm okay at doing those because I've got a teaching background, so I'm quite good at knowing what to say and when to say it, put them into paragraphs. I know that kind of process. But it's always really good to have someone else look at your text, your writing, your approach. Get someone else. It's always best if you've got someone else to work with you, definitely, because then if you get stuck, you can say, what do you think of this? And give it back to them, or they might know somebody else that could help you.
Yeah, drawing people who've got the skills. I have a friend of mine, Holly. She goes as Holly Torius on social media.
Brilliant woman.
She's an art journalist. I was an art editor, and whenever I'm in London, I always stay with her. But so I always get her to. If I wrote an article for ArtQuest the other month, because it was this thing like they pay you £200, but basically gets to write about yourself and your experiences. I thought publicity. And so I gave it to her, and she proofread it, said, just corrections to sentence structures, spelling mistakes, maybe like, okay, maybe for the intro, you should have a little catchy thing, which, and so I got West bought it, and it's publicity, but it's, people who know, when it comes to writing, I always go to her.
Yeah, I'm the same. I really struggle with writing. And my mother-in-law is my proofreader. And whenever I write something, I think, there's no mistakes in that one. She's not going to get me on that. And she comes back with a page full, and I'm like, how on earth?
All the red highlighted suggestions.
Yeah. Eva's asking, have you had to work mentally, mindset, attitude to be better at pricing, selling, conceiving money in exchange for your art?
Ooh,
we had this conversation earlier about pricing, because it's really horrible, because I obviously even now I've been making art since I was all my life, and relatively good at what I do, but I think artists you tend to undervalue, and I had for quite a while I set like a price range for my stuff. And I always undervalued it, but now I kind of like think, okay, no, I'll work out what I want for an artwork, try and aim, and then I'll double it, because obviously if I'm selling through a gallery, they take 50%. And I used to, at one point, I used to have like some sort of private collectors or friends I'd sell to, and I'd do them like the discount, like half, but you can't really do that, because if someone buys your work through a gallery and then later finds out through your own website that you're doing it half price, then they feel cheated. The gallery feels that they're being cheated. So you have to, I think, if you work out, however you work it out, your prices, and I have a document, everything I make, I put there and I work at the price and I stick to that now. So if
it's great advice.
You've got the price you want, if you sell it privately, you still make double what you want. So it's
absolutely agree totally with that one.
That's one thing I learned. You can't really have a separate pricing system.
And it's confidence as well. So Eva, you said about having to have your mindset or attitude to be better at pricing. Initially, it will be really, it was really hard. You know, you don't know what your work is valued at. So you do the research, you find out who's doing what and where, and then you compare your own work in that kind of stage or that area, and then you come back with something that you feel comfortable or confident with. But you do not put a ceiling on it. Michelle was really good at, she's very good at don't put that ceiling on yourself, because you do not buy your artwork. You are not your buyer.
Yeah. I was just, when I read this question, it just reminded me actually of our conversation, and I just wanted to say a conversation that Sharon and I had about 4 years ago, where Sharon was repelling money. She was like, I don't want money, I don't need it, and I could see she was getting in her own way, and it was just that actually was a mindset shift for you. And I said, you're putting a ceiling on your potential. It doesn't need to be about the money, but there's nothing wrong with earning money from your art. You know, stop stopping yourself.
I love it now. I earn so much.
That conversation
this month.
Yeah, we were talking earlier about mindsets, because when I started out, I was quite mistrustful of a lot of galleries, because at one point, if you were represented in the early days, a lot of them would be exclusive to that gallery, and I really resisted that. And there's quite a few times where I would offered gallery representation, and I just refused it because I didn't trust them. I wanted my freedom.
Yeah,
I think I'm very good at self-sabotaging, and sort of financially, especially, sort of I don't do things when people are interested, and yeah, and that's sort of away from big galleries.
Yeah, it's common though. It's common in artists to self-sabotage financial success. It really is. I think because we're making something personal as well. You know, it's tough at the beginning, but I do remember Sharon and I sitting down, and to help Sharon in that situation, what we did actually was sat down and we actually wrote down her magic number. And I said, you know, if there was an amount that's really scary that you'd like to earn, what would it be? And she was like, ooh, and then set the number. And I was like, so what could you do with that money if you earned that money? And then you listed that, well, I could put an extension on the house, so my son has a bedroom of his own. I could take my children on holiday, actually, to a place that we've always wanted to go. And so when she started to list and so then all of a sudden it was like, actually, yeah, having this money, so I don't need money, but if I did, I could do these things. And I think that was a massive shift that I saw in you then.
Huge.
Sharon's prices just rocketed. Her prices rocketed not long after that shift in her mindset. So it is a big topic we could talk about for hours, but I think
it is absolutely mindset. There's confidence in what you're doing. So first of all, your confidence in what you're doing, and then remove that ceiling because you are not your buyer. And then you find where you want to be, and you say yes. You say yes. You don't say no, because that's your negativity committee going, no, you're not good enough. Well, you can't do this. Sabotaging, or your self-sabotager.
Yeah. A practical question. How do you place your energy, marketing budget, etc., between physical gallery exhibitions and virtual exhibitions?
How would you place your bets? So energy, marketing, budget, between physical gallery exhibitions and virtual. Don't really understand that question.
So I think what Eva's saying is, you know, how do you spread yourself between the physical world, the virtual world, and in terms of your own energy, time, and money? So,
and for me, I'm always an artist. You know, when I wake up in the morning, we were saying this is what we both do. I didn't know this. We both have a sketchbook. We both record our dreams. So I'm an artist when I wake up, until I go to bed. So the energy gets shifted between people who need me to write an email to them, things that need to go on social media, or the work that needs to be produced for a gallery, or the time that I have for myself to work on new work. So it all gets spread quite evenly, but it gets dictated to by deadlines for me. But there's a constant. I post on social media every day just for half an hour. I spend half an hour on social media because I like it. That's kind of my blog. It's like my thoughts of the morning. It gets me connected, and then I reply at the end of the day. I use one, so I use Instagram. That's it. And then I generally go into the workshop and I make. And then if a deadline arises, then I will, in this collaborative process, then I will say, Wayne, we need to do this, or we need to have this.
I think deadlines are really good for focusing.
Yeah.
You might, sort of time. I'm quite good at procrastinating, but I think you do need downtime and let things mull. But I think with social media, because it can be quite a drain, and so like it's very good what Sharon says, like setting a certain amount of time. I don't do that, but I think with social media, it's I think and like networking. When I was living in London, I spent a lot of time go to private views, and that's when you meet all the artists, the gallerists, and it's just it's a good way of sort of getting invited to an exhibition to exhibit yourself. Yeah. So I think networking is really good if you're in an area where it's possible, like a city, London. But I think with social media and stuff, I think and networking, if you can treat it like a game, like a bit of fun, just a way of disseminating your work and putting it out there, then it doesn't become a drain or a drag.
I think it's a good point actually, is kind of working to your strengths and what you enjoy, isn't it? So I'm getting the impression now, Wayne, that you're probably not as online, your online presence isn't as prominent as other people's, because you are much more of a people person and going to the galleries and the shows and things like that. Would that be right, would you think, in terms of...
I think when I was London based, I sort of most nights after work, just do a few gallery parties on the way home. But it was you could back then you could easily do 5 to 10 parties a night and then still be home for like 9. What
a great lifestyle.
It was pretty good. Free food, free and it was just a great, and it was, I think, it was a really good way of getting to know people and invite. But I think now I do try and do a blog post, maybe a couple of months or something. But I think Instagram and Twitter I tend to use. I tend to have a blog post, and then what I'll do is I'll use social media as like notice boards. So once I've done the blog post, I might put it on Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, LinkedIn, and then start them back. So but sort of controlling your time or whatever. So I'm not that.
He's so laid back. Just get something, just what he feels that day. It's the best way to live.
What then? Log.
Not like me, where I've got every minute of my day planned out.
That's the thing about tier system, isn't it? You're like, oh, and I'm like, and Wayne's like,
he's enjoying the little things. There's a lot of little things I enjoy.
I just want to comment. Eva apologised for her English on that last post. Eva, don't worry about it. We have a big international audience. With the very fact that you can write English is amazing, because I know no other language. So
it wasn't English. It was the question that I didn't quite get. That's all.
But please don't worry. You don't have to apologise.
Awesome.
This is a nice comment. Sharon, I liked the gestures you give by hand while talking. I don't know why, but I could see in your hands you're so perfect to make sculpture. Very firm movements. I love that.
Massaging as well.
And she's got on the drums. So his hands are. Yeah. We're going to wrap up, guys, because we've taken an hour of your time. So